Welcome back, Growth Warriors, to another episode of Inappropriate Growth. Buckle up, because today we're taking a sharp turn from our usual solopreneur guest. Today, we've got a family reunion in the house. That's right. Joining me today are Lieutenant Colonel Tony Roe, retired, decorated fighter pilot with over 30 years of experience under his belt. We've also got Sky Roe, a former college lacrosse star and rising sports psychology whiz. Rounding out the trio is Tina Roe, who, like her husband, is an Air Force Academy graduate, veteran officer, and real estate mogul. This power couple and their athletic daughter are the masterminds behind Sports Hogs, a company dedicated to helping athletes and coaches reach their full potential. But let's be honest, growth isn't always pretty. It can be messy, downright inappropriate at times. Join us today as we dive into the Roe family playbook for achieving inappropriate growth. We'll be talking about pushing boundaries, overcoming setbacks, and maybe even a few near-death experiences. Get ready for some laughs, some serious growth hacks, and a whole lot of family love as we chat with the sport hogs themselves, the Roes. Let's get this family reunion started. Welcome to the Inappropriate Growth Podcast. I'm Paul Angelle, and I have with me today, I have the Roe family. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, tell us where they are and how they got there.
Well, I am Tony Roe. I am obviously the husband and father of the group here. We're talking to you out of Lee Summit, Missouri, which is the southeast suburb out of Kansas City. So long story short of how we got here is I was leaving the active duty Air Force, and the Air Force Reserve Squadron close by had a full-time job, and this is where we came.
And I am Tina Roe, so I am the mom of the family and just the glue that keeps everything together, keeps us running and operating. So no side comments there.
And then I'm Skylar, the daughter of these two, which is always a fun time. So,
And speaking of beginnings and origins, I'm curious about how your background and I'm also curious what initially inspired you to get into business.
So I will take that one. I think as a family, we were looking for something where we could give back to the community, give back to the things that we enjoy. And we were all athletes. So Tony played hockey in college, I did gymnastics, and Skylar played lacrosse in college. And so we just really wanted to get into a business that actually worked with athletes and coaches, because we took all of our experiences and said, gosh, how could we make this better? And what could we do in that realm to make sports more fun? I think they've gotten so serious and just so crazy as of late. And we're just kind of reminding kids and parents and coaches that, the majority of kids don't go on to play in college. And so it is just this small blip of their life. However, it's a really important blip in their life, and especially if it's a great experience. So just really wanting kids to have a great experience playing sports. And if they want to go into college, helping give them the tools to do that. And then the tools that if they don't go on and play in college, that will help them in life to set goals, be more positive with themselves, and to really be able to achieve all the things that they want to.
Your approach to business. What would you say your key influence or experiences in your life or your early life that shaped this approach outside of sports?
Whew, that's tough. Go ahead.
Personally, I would say it's probably a little bit driven by a military background. And the reason I say that is because Tina and I are both graduates of the Air Force Academy. That's where we did our Division I college athletics. And then Tina spent 10 years in the military, and then I spent 31 years in the military. So
Thank you.
You're absolutely anytime. I think that our outlook on it is a little bit more structured in how we look at it, as far as setting some goals and setting some objectives for ourselves in different jobs and different things that we did in the military throughout our lives, which also revolved around sports as well through that time. And then trying to help our girls do that same thing with, hey, what would you like to do? What you got to, you have to make a commitment. You have to set some type of goal for yourself and what you may want to achieve, depending on what level you may want to get to go and play at, wherever that may be. So I think that's kind of where it stems from a little bit, and it's definitely steered, if you will, with some of the things that we've learned via the military and the things that we've seen, places we've been, stuff like that.
Okay, it makes sense. And I mean, just as I think about it, I remember just like travel sports teams, for example, the word elite used to have a much different meaning than it has today. Everybody's elite, everybody's select, everybody's has these. And back in the day, if you were elite, you took it very seriously and it was very structured. Now, when you add a bunch of people that aren't necessarily used to taking it that seriously, they're taking it that seriously, but they're doing it without structure. I watched a video compilation. I mean, it was topical because it was over 100 degrees that day and people were outside playing baseball. But it was a video compilation of parents physically attacking umpires.
That's awful.
And it was just, I mean, at first it was funny, and then you realize it was poor.
real.
I mean, they didn't take this job obviously to make friends, but you can't play the game without the umpire. You can't hurt the umpire because you didn't like the call. And it's like sportsmanship is really a byproduct, I think, out of structure. And I never thought about it through a military sense.
Well, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about structure. You learn a lot about what goal or objective you want to set, but you also learn a lot about leading and following and finding whether it's your own particular sport. If you're an individual sport, you're obviously more you're kind of your own leader and follower with a coach and a family and maybe some teammates, but maybe you're competing in swimming where your event is you're in the pool by yourself. And then you got to kind of move along to where somebody who is leading and following and learning their place, but now in a team sport where there's 11 or 12 people on the field at a time, or however many, whatever that sport may be, and where you fit in that group. And then also how your specific skill set, whatever it may be, because it could be athletic and it could also be mental or kind of more intellectual, as how you work within the group and how people react to the things that you say and do, whether you're on the field or off the field. But that type of leadership and followership, if you will, kind of blending of roles and where you might be at any given time from one team or one season to the next, builds some of that structure and helps you understand and helps you kind of learn a little bit about what's right and wrong as well. Like attacking the ref is obviously not something that you want your kids to necessarily see, but sometimes those of us who are adults think oddly about sports and our kids in sports. And the statistics of kids that play youth sports and then go on to college, the numbers, the percentage drastically drops. And I had a friend who started a youth lacrosse group up in Omaha, and they would like kind of have a parent meeting and talk to the parents about the officials. What he would have everybody raise their hand about what level sport they played at. And by the time he got to, hey, how many of you here played professional sports? There was rarely a hand of a parent still being held up in the air. And he's like, okay, so we've come to the conclusion that your kid's probably not going to be a professional athlete. And our referees aren't professional athletes either. So let's treat them that way.
Well, and you see, I mean, I just think of service academies. I've seen players melt down on the field of play in different sports. I can't remember the last time I saw someone do that in Colorado Springs or West Point or Annapolis.
I could give you a couple instances in this Colorado Springs area, possibly.
Okay.
But it is rare. It is rare. That's true.
When you're just really learning that resilience of how to overcome challenges that are facing you, and how to be professional about reacting to them, and how to gain control of yourself and become. You want to be emotional, but not emotional, and I think that's probably some of the military that we got is, being able to control your emotions when you're trying to react to something whether it's in business, life, sports, being able to be, methodical, logical about how you think about it and then how you react to it.
How did you overcome initial hurdles and setbacks in your business life?
I think in business, I mean, I've always come from a never give up attitude. So that's always been my piece, is that, if you really want to do it, then you just have to keep at it and you just have to find a way. And I think so many people, they just stop short of that. Maybe you were one phone call away or one client away from busting through whatever was holding you back. But I think people give up too quickly. I think it's just that, what is your goal? The course and do it as long as you can.
Now, what's probably the biggest challenge you faced getting the business off the ground?
I think the business for us in the business is that, there's three of us right here and we're trying to run a company that, down the road, I'd love to see there be many faces in our company and somebody running our social media, somebody running our sales department. So it's Skylar's designing stuff. I'm helping her design things. Tony is talking to coaches. So there's just so many aspects of it that when you start a business, you might be a business of one, but you have to wear every hat and you have to do everything. And you might not be good at all of those things. So you've got to figure out, where do you spend your time? What am I good at? What am I just so bad at that I actually really need to probably go hire somebody to do? Well, and then you find too, like Skylar likes doing some things more than other things, and same for Tony. So, just the three of us trying to figure out, hey, who's helping with this aspect of it, who's doing this piece, and working to our strengths. Because I think that's probably one of the biggest things, is always being able to know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and work to your strengths. I mean, we all know that in anything that you do, you might not be the most talented person, but if you can work to your strengths, you can do incredible things. I think for people starting out, sometimes you just need to get a coach, and sometimes getting a coach earlier on help you figure out the things that you need to do, the things that you should be having someone else do, and maybe the direction, because there's somebody else that's been there, done that, and can give you advice when you're kind of spinning your wheels and not sure which direction to go.
And everything's not a struggle. I'm curious, can you think of a big win or a big memorable success story?
I mean, I would say a big win for us is we've got a coach that's using our journal with her softball team in Houston. And for me personally, it was a really big win when I had a follow-up conversation with her and she was talking about, there's an area in our journal where you talk about affirmations and you create affirmations and you're asking your team, and the young girls on the team to list, what are the things that I'm saying to myself positively before games? And one of the girls put, I'm not an idiot. And when she shared that with me, I was like, whoa, that's not really an affirmation. That's just not really a very nice thing to say to yourself. For that kid, somewhere in her life, somebody, whether it's family, siblings, friends, peers, somebody in there somewhere has made her feel like she's an idiot. And so, for that coach, how amazing is that to have that information and now be able to interact differently with that athlete? Because hey, if I just change how I speak to her or I change how I interact with her, you could totally change her life, in just that belief. And Skylar and I talk about it a lot with, sometimes you have to borrow other people's belief. And I don't know, Skylar, you want to talk a little bit about borrowing others' beliefs?
It's essentially the thing that my mom used to say to me when I was in college and I was just really struggling with my self-confidence on the field. And she was just like, borrow their belief. Your teammates believe in you. I believe in you. Like your family believes in you. Borrow what they believe and just adopt that as your own. And I had it on a note card in my locker, and I used to read it before my games and everything. And it was more just a way for me to remind myself that like my beliefs were limiting when it was based on me, but other people in my life had such a positive impact. And I just needed to look outside of myself and look at other people and see how they viewed me in that positive light and just kind of adopt that.
I said for me, the win was getting that feedback from a coach that she was using the journal and she was able to make an impact on her team. And that's really the crux of what we're trying to do, is we're trying to make an impact on athletes and coaches for people to live to their fullest potential, and to be able to do that. So for us, that was a really big win. And it was a win when she, ordered the journals for her whole team. That was a really big win for us.
What motivated you to expand that focus to these, I guess, online entrepreneurs in the coaching space?
Well, I think it's interesting, but that's kind of the way. There's so much out there, and so many people do and see and find things just from the simple aspect of having a phone in their hand, and they search for things that they want, and they're looking for things that they want to accomplish or be or do. I mean, people are finding jobs on their phones now, right? Back in when we were all young, you'd go to the place, you'd fill out a pen and paper, and you'd fill out an application, you give it to them. There was no searching for it the other way. So in many ways, it's a place where almost I think you have to have a presence if you want to be a successful business these days. But on the other hand, our product is really simple in concept, because I'm asking you as a coach or an athlete or a team, when you're sitting together at whether it's a captain's practice, a meeting, or a team meeting, or a practice planning between coaches, or game prep between coaches and athletes, I'm asking you to put things down, pen to paper, some of it before you get there, and some of it maybe we fill out together. But that simple aspect of just writing something down and talking about it as a group, or talking about it to your coach or manager, kind of solidifies what you're trying to do goals wise for yourself and others. So to try to help get that piece of the puzzle out there to individuals, as simple as it may sound, we wanted to develop these game day sports journals and coaches journals, but then also be able to get them out to as many people as possible and offer them feedback, or offer them follow on training, or all other ideas. They become kind of part of the team, and kind of take it to a different level, get feedback from them as well, so that we can maneuver and manipulate and change things as needed to make it better. So that's the main thing about getting out there. And that goes back to like divvying up the task between ourselves. Like Skylar is much better with Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, or whatever it may be, where you're connecting with an individual or noticing something about an individual that might be able to help you. She's much better than that at that than I am. I have no concept about any of that stuff, and that's just generational, at times.
How do you support and motivate each other during highs and lows? Is it different in business than it was in sports, or is it essentially the same?
To me personally, I think it's the same, because I we did it as parents of college athletes, of our two daughters. And if we look further way back, we can see about how we maybe helped each other out as athletes when we were in college. But I think a lot of it's the same, because you have to be able to kind of pick yourself up, whether it's in business or athletics. You have to be able to maneuver through the highs and lows of whatever it may be. And you're wondering about your decision making process, and you're wondering if you made the right decision, whether it's changing a sport or changing a school. We went through the transfer portal with Skylar, as she switched from one college to play lacrosse to another. And that was something that Tina and I had not done. So we learned a lot about that, and the kind of highs and lows that come with that, when you like the way something's going in some regards, but there are a couple things that are making you wonder about if it's the right place for you. And so you make a change. Maybe you make a minor change, maybe you make a major change, but you're making some type of change that you have to stay positive about, you have to stay motivated about. And really, you have to like communicate. You have to talk to your team members about it, whether it's family or teammates or coaches. If you're making a change and you do it all on your own, you're probably doing a disservice to yourself, because you're not using all of the assets around you to get to a better place in maybe the quickest or best amount of time, or on the best track, if you will, to get to that spot. So to me, it's kind of the same. A bad day in sports it feels just as crappy as a bad day in business where you're like, hey, that idea didn't work. It's just like that play that we worked all week didn't work and we didn't win the game, if you will. But are the maybe the what you're looking at and how what you're trying to overcome is one aspect of that, just to play in a game and you lose a game, and the other one's a business decision where you lose money, because they all at different aspects and different points of your life take on a different importance as well. So I look at everything and try to keep everything, and maybe it's just because I try to keep my brain working in a simple way, but I just try to keep things the same where there's ups and downs and there's twists and turns in the road, and you got to know that they're coming no matter what. No matter how great your plan is, something unexpected is going to come your way for sure, whether it's sports or business and especially in life. And you got to be ready for that, or at least prep yourself to be able to operate and manipulate yourself through that situation.
And I think, Paul, you could even say it's skill based and that is the same, because if you want to become a better athlete and better at your sport, depending on what your position is, you have to get better at your skills. So you're practicing those skills, you're working on those skills, and the same with business. If you want to be better in business and you want your company to be better, the stuff that you're not good at, you got to figure out how to be good at it, or you got to figure out how to hire the person that is good at it if you're not going to do it. So I think it's increasing your skills, and that easily translates from sports into business, because learning a business, creating a business, it is all about skills and what you're learning, what you're doing, seeking out information from whether it's coaching courses or just information classes. I mean, gosh, you can learn anything on the internet. So, getting in and learning what works, what doesn't work, and pushing that into improving your skills is just going to help your company to grow as well.
All right. Well, I'm a little suspicious of the integration of the journal in your coaching platform. I suspect that wasn't your first experience with journals. Do you have a history?
So I'll start. I probably have the oldest experience with journals, and it's funny because it was back in the 80s, so kind of dating myself, but people didn't really talk about that stuff at all. I mean, there really wasn't any emphasis on journaling or things like that. I mean, I tracked all of my gymnastics meets. I tracked my scores. My gymnastics team, we had what was called dinner winners, and you had to get a certain score for all around in compulsories and optionals. And if you got that score, then you won a dinner, and they took all the athletes out to dinner. So, there was just a lot of different things, goal setting, writing stuff down. And, and I've got some old notebooks where I had written notes and things about my goals. Maybe not as much journal prompting as far as like asking me why I was doing something or what I wanted to get out of a season. And so, as the world has changed from the 80s until now, and then from when Skylar was playing, that's kind of a little bit of the change on the journaling that we did. If you want to talk about that a little bit.
I've been tracking my stats since I was a freshman in high school, but as I was kind of going through them, like I would track the stats from the game, I would watch the film, and then I would make notes underneath it and just kind of, say what I thought about it. And I just always had I never had anything positive to say about my play. It was always something negative. And so as I got older, I tried to start looking at things in a more positive light and try and journal after the game. Like, what did I think went well? And then I would be doing wall, and basically in lacrosse, that's just like throwing a ball against a wall. And I would go up to the field. I would, play wall ball for an hour in my basement. I would play wall ball, and I would journal, okay, like, how did I feel like my session went today? How do I feel like my skills are improving? Am I doing things that I want to be doing in here? And just kind of like trying to write a little bit more about what I was feeling during it, because I'm a pretty emotional person, I would say. And my emotions were something that would sometimes get the best of me on the field and would really like cloud how well I actually played. And I just always took it so to heart of like, oh, I played so poorly. And so for me, journaling was a way to write out, okay, what is actually going on when I'm playing? What is, I can see the game, I can see where the stats are coming into play, but how do I actually feel about that? And then kind of trying to change it of like, what do I want my season to look like? And how do I want to feel when I play this season? What are my goals? And journaling a bit more in those areas as well, kind of as my season went on and as I got older.
And I think with the increased focus on like mental focus, the mental mindset of athletes and just people in general. I mean, there's lots of people that aren't athletes that journal. I think just really kind of knowing inherently inside what it is that you're wanting and how to figure out how to get there and just being in tune with that aspect of yourself. And I think the regards to the coaching and the journaling, I think we felt like, hey, a coach could buy journals for their team, and that's great. And some coaches are perfectly good to go and don't need any extra assistance. But we felt like we had a lot to give coaches, and hey, here's the best way to integrate this into your or implement it into your program, how to use it the best way, because it can get really busy when you're in season. And same thing, you're putting that accountability in there saying, hey, if a coach is checking in with me, am I still, maybe we started out the season really strong using the journal with the team and I was in tune with all my players. And then I just got so busy and caught up that then I just kind of let it go by the wayside. So we wanted to be able to offer that to coaches as well to help them improve their overall coaching program.
Well, you speak of the 80s. I remember in the 80s, they didn't have a job called sports psychiatrist, right? I mean, mental health during a sporting event was the assistant coach telling you to rub some dirt on it. Stop being a wussy. That was how.
Drink some water, some dirt on it.
Yeah. Because we talk a lot about that, like what happened back then that now there's so much focus, and we're all of us athletes having all this stuff going on back then, and we're all told to kind of just suck it up and just keep moving forward. And there's so much about like sports. Very few people end their season with a winning game. Most people, their last game, their last time they ever do something in college, and if they don't go on to professional sports or even in high school, you lose. And you have to figure out how to be okay with that. And not everybody's going to be number one. Not everybody's going to have the most goals or the most shots or, most defensive plays, whatever it is. Very few people are going to be that number one person. But just because you're not that number one person in that doesn't mean that you can't be hugely successful in life with what you're doing because of all of the skills and the things that you're building about yourself.
But in a goal-oriented culture, how do you foster that culture within the family? I mean, you have that realistic outlook, and you know what the likelihood of things are. How do you guys deal with goals? Are goals still a part of the family business, just like they were with sports?
I would say probably more so now, really, because when it's a business, and when you bring in a financial aspect of it, now you really want to make sure that you're, to the best of your ability, like we talked about earlier, making those decisions in a good way, because you want it to succeed. And there's, nobody's just throwing money at something to make it continue to succeed. But obviously, starting a business does take some type of financial backing. So now I think our goals are even more so important, and kind of more, we look at them even a little bit more so as just along a timeline of, hey, where could this go? How do we continue to move? Right now, I'd say we're more in the infant stages of where the business is. So we're still kind of starting to understand and learn the audience a little bit better, learning and understanding where we want to go and hey, we want to make a trip and we want to go to that conference and represent sports there, because that's where we think really there's a lot of people that we could reach out to. There's a lot of people that could get some good assistance and that we could help in their endeavors. And the journals are all about what you're doing in your sport, but they also really internally hold you accountable for your actions and what goals and objectives you've set for yourself. And then it also, within all of the journals, when you're at a team meeting, there's a lot of them that are a couple times in there that are kind of asking questions back and forth between the athletes, and even between the coaching staff and the athletes, of what does that person expect from me? what do I expect from that person in their whatever their specific role may be. So for us right now, we're kind of starting to branch out and maybe broaden our horizons on, okay, I think we can do some good here. This is a conference that's really good to go attend, that we should set that as a goal to maybe be able to go do that trip and make that trip. And then hopefully the outcome of that is that, you sure, it's great and awesome, you're getting sales and stuff, but it's also to get feedback from some of those coaches and even some of those players and go, hey, how did this help you? Like, how can we make it better, or even make it more better than we actually think that it already is? And how did it help you? But how could it help you more in the future?
And I'm assuming that sports are done. Are we still playing sports? Are we still active?
Somebody still plays on a
Oh,
hockey league.
You mean as far as us? I thought you meant, what? There's got to be a sports season going on. I still play hockey twice a week. So, just in a men's league type environment. I did play on a team down in the summer in the over 50 USA Hockey Nationals, where we came up short by one or two goals. We got second place. So,
but you're not bitter.
No. Remember that.
No, and I think you take that missing of a sport and that competitiveness. I mean, you take a lot of those pieces that are just kind of ingrained in you for all those years, and then you put it into a business, or you put it into your family, or some other hobby that you pick up.
Managing aspects of your life. I mean, when sports were real, when you were actively competing in college or high school or something, how did sports rank with regard to maybe jobs or education?
I mean, for us at the Air Force Academy, obviously your sport was important, but if you didn't have the grades, you didn't get to play. So, and actually that's all college. I mean, you got to have the grades. And even in high school, I think when you were coaching,
absolutely,
they made sure that the girls had certain GPA, and if they weren't, or they were failing classes, then they couldn't play. So I think most athletes, when you talk to them, most athletes are students. And I think it's just the discipline of time management, knowing, hey, I've got practice, so I need to get my stuff done because I'm going to be at practice, and planning ahead when, hey, I'm going to be out of town on a road trip for a couple days, and I know I've got a project due. So, I mean, academics have always been important. And I'm here to say, in the world of scholarships, unless you're on a full ride somewhere, most of your academic scholarships are more than your athletic scholarships. So, for people that are looking at that and their kids are looking at scholarships, again, if you're not part of the football, volleyball, gymnastics, probably some basketball, I don't know what the numbers are across the board, but
yeah, I've only seen one full baseball scholarship ever.
Yeah. So, I mean, your grades, they give way more money for grades than they do athletics.
For me, my sport was more like in college at the academy, my sport to me individually was more important to me than my grades. However, my grades at the academy had to be a specific level for me to be able to be on the team. And I don't know, and I've said this numerous times, but for me personally, I went to the prep school at the Air Force Academy, which is, you basically are going there to get your ACT or SAT score up, but you're a recruited athlete. So it's kind of a hybrid year between your senior year of college and your freshman year or your senior year of high school and your freshman year of college. You're in the middle, I guess. And I knew I wanted to play hockey, and I really wanted to fly airplanes. So they kind of played off of each other a little bit, where one was driving the other as far as making me or helping me continue to focus on what I needed to focus on.
Let's talk about future vision. What are the aspirations? Speaking of goals for the future, individually and as a family, where do you see the company?
I mean, we're still working on what we really want that to look like long term. I mean, we have big goals to really impact a lot of people. I mean, I'd love to get into some sports camps where every camper is getting a journal when they go to camp, to introduce them to that aspect of it. I'd love to see some of that going on. But I think for right now, the three of us, I'd love to hire somebody for social media.
People want to find out about your product, your service. How do they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
So if you just go to www.sportshogs.com, and it's HAWGS.com. So sportshogs.com. They can get in there. They can see the journals. They can see some of our coaching collections as well. You can always send us an email if you have any questions. We do packages for teams. We have lots of individuals who buy journals, and we also have lots of teams that buy journals. So, we cater to both. We just want everybody to be the best that they can be.
Cool swag. There's cool swag in there too.
There is cool
right?
swag.
Yeah.
There's no point in having a business if there's no cool.
That's right.
I really, really appreciate this. This is definitely a record. I've had 2 people as guests at one time. I've never had 3. This is
3.
Really
Well, we appreciate
trendsetters. Trendsetters for sure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I actually learned a lot today. It was really, really
No,
cool.
thank you very much too.
And for anybody listening, just remember, if you're going to grow, chances are you'll eventually have to do something inappropriate.
That is true.